Welcome to the place where we learn about and learn from the leaders in our field who are powering human creativity. I am Aaron Dworkin, and this is Arts Engines. Thanks again for joining me here on Arts Engines. Today's guest is Demarre McGill, who has gained international recognition. He is a soloist, recitalist, chamber orchestral musician, winner of an Avery Fisher Career Grant, and I would be remiss if not mentioning a Sphinx Medal of Excellence. He was named Associate Professor of Flute at the Cincinnati College-Conservatory of Music, with whom they are one of our amazing creative partners and helped us co-curate this particular show. He's also an artist faculty member of the Aspen Music Festival in school and has appeared as a soloist with the Philadelphia Orchestra, Seattle, Pittsburgh, Dallas. The list goes on and on, San Diego, Baltimore. And if all of that wasn't enough, I believe at the age of 15, appeared with the Chicago Symphony. So without further ado, Demarre, welcome to the show.
Thank you. It's great to be here. Thanks for having me.
So, it's wonderful. I have this great opportunity to interview a host of leaders, but I've had the opportunity beyond that to just see such a wonderful trajectory of your career and know you for so many years, and just the not only the talent and excellence that you bring to your performance work, but also kind of this thought and diligence to our field and to the institutions with which you interact. And of course, one of those is CCM. And so kind of along those lines, I thought I would just kind of start out. Obviously, this past year, like DE&I, everyone is like diversity happy. 20 years ago, people were like, why do we need to work on diversity? And now it seems everyone is like, oh, yes, what are we doing about diversity? We need to do something. But, I worry about sustainable change, and I wonder about what's really working, what's not. So to kind of start off with a very broad question where we can kind of delve down into more details, but what are your thoughts about sustainable change, specifically kind of in our leading conservatories? Are there things that you feel are working or that you feel you wish you saw more of? Let's kind of start there.
Right. Well, that's a great question. It's been over a year now since George Floyd's killing, and apparently this is when people realized that there was a problem. Apparently, a lot of us have been living with it for our entire existences. So this is around the time where we would hope that we will see people pass the "I need to read books to understand racism and to understand how to be anti-racist" phase. We should be past that at this point. The books should have been read. So, there are things that I see being done. I was pleased with the drive, and I hate to even say interest, and problem solving, but it's true. Within CCM as an institution, I was pleased from the start, and even now, that there was a recognition that as an institution of higher learning, that there were things that could be done that unfortunately other professional organizations seem to be either scared, fearful, or unable to do. We can say in higher education that, okay, we have a position open, then we should be putting the effort to make sure that our applicants are reflective of America. We need to make sure that we need to put effort into making sure that if it's down to a few, that we're doing everything to create an environment within our institution that is reflective of America. We can say that about our individual teaching studios. This is something that that concerns me as a Black professor. You know, my studio doesn't look like America, and it needs to.
Yeah, totally. And what types of things either are you kind of looking at or implementing to try to impact or hope that CCM and or other conservatories will do to kind of work on that?
Right. Well, what I'm trying to do and what I've spoken about to anyone who will listen is that I really believe that when there's a segment of the population who has been invited to the party for all of time, well, not all of time, all of Americans' time, then we can't expect then when there's now an open invitation for them to show up at the door. Walk in. No, I think we need to go to people and hand them a personal invitation and say, you are welcome. We want you and we need you and we value you. So what I personally been trying to do is to do that. If I hear about a young Black flutist, I want to actually talk to them. I want them to let them know that this is a welcome environment. I hope to within a year, even, that once I feel that my studio represents America, then the word will get out that it's a welcome environment. But until that happens, no, it's up to me, it's up to the school, it's up to my colleagues to go into any and every community that that we want in our studio, not to expect them to come to us.
So I love what you're raising there, because, so often, we hear these things of, oh, well, look, anyone can come and audition. We don't control that. And, we're not racist. Whoever shows up, that's who shows up, kind of thing. And kind of taking on a self-initiative. I see that as so important, and even reflect back on my original coming to the University of Michigan as a student. And after I did my audition, I had the opportunity, and the associate dean at the time, Willis Patterson, said, come into my office, and did basically exactly what you're talking about, which was saying and sharing with me, this is a place where you will feel welcome. Here's what's going to kind of happen at this institution. Here's why we value you and all that. It made all of the difference in the world. And I see that, and I love that kind of call for that. So in looking at some of those things, and hopefully we can address that recruitment, and of course through that, I think, retention of students. Any thoughts about faculty recruitment or that kind of side of the equation, and what conservatories can do?
Mm-hmm. Well, I think it's the same thing. It's not expecting people to show up where they haven't been invited to, but doing your research, doing some legwork in order to get to the point where if there is not enough representation in the applicant pool, it's not the applicant's fault, it's yours. Accepting that responsibility, that is something that I know that we can do. I want to mention one of the things I love most about what CCM does is the partnership they have with the Cincinnati Symphony. This fellowship. I would love to see it expanded. I would love to see other institutions collaborating with the big professional organizations of their town, so that not only are you attracting musicians of color, but you're actually then giving them real life training to bridge the gap to help these professional organizations where they're falling short, at least to begin that connection.
Absolutely. And I think that's such a huge, important point. And I think this is a model this partnership between CCM and the symphony, that if that was replicated at every major conservatory around the country, I think could really have a significant, very early on, systemic impact on how we're doing in the field. So definitely, I think that's a phenomenal example. So this is some great feedback and all of that, but I also like to capture on the show to give kind of a window into people, right? So a lot of times people look, they're like, okay, Demarre McGill or these other, key leaders, that can't be my life. Like, I'm not going to, land that awesome, conservatory or, music school position. I'm not going to land that awesome orchestra gig. That's just someone else's path. And so I like to kind of delve in just a little bit into kind of how you've approached life. And so wondering if for, those who are coming up, who are currently, in music school, but who feel like, the odds are just against me. If I look at the statistics of getting that big job, either one of them, right? And they're like, I just am not going to do it. I won't be able to even get one, let alone two. What do you say to them in those moments? What words of wisdom do you have from your own experiences of those tough times?
Right. Well, first of all, if you're saying that to yourself, stop saying that to yourself. That's the number one thing. Words matter. Words influence. Most importantly, they influence you. And if you're saying you can't do it, then you won't do it. That was something that was a very important part of my upbringing. For me and my brother, we couldn't say I can't. If it was something positive and we wanted to do it, we could do it. As long as we were careful with our words. First of all, know exactly what you're hoping to accomplish, and craft exactly how you would express that. Because you may get what you want, and what you actually get may not be what's best for you. So be careful with your words. Use those words to set clear goals. I do another thing that I've done for most of my existence is I call it now the matching game. I wasn't aware of it then, but it's I call it the matching game, and it begins with being the best version of yourself as often as you can. Ideally, all of the time, professionally, artistically speaking, because you never know who's listening to you. I mean, a lot of times you do, but you never know. So much of the work I get now is because someone heard me when, it was just another Tuesday, So with this matching game is that over years of really giving your all, two people meet, your name comes up, that's a match. Eventually, once you live your life like this, you have a lot of people rooting for you. A lot of people know your power, and it becomes easier to make your dreams come true. The more matches the more people you have in your existence in the world that have heard you giving your all. It's not about perfection, but they heard you giving your all. Everything you're capable of giving at that particular moment in your life. Then you say, I want to start a nonprofit. You have people out there that can help you. If you want to play more chamber music, you have people out there that can help you. But it begins with how you carry yourself, how you perform in every sense of the word today. It's very easy. Start right now being the best version of yourself. So between that and knowing what you're going for, knowing what will bring some version of joy to your existence, and being the best version of yourself as often as possible, those are already two things that can start to create a path of luck.
Oh my gosh. So I am, of course, just sitting here extraordinarily inspired by your words. And unfortunately, we're just about out of time. But even with this extraordinary success that you've experienced, especially when we look at things like this past year, I can only imagine you've got tough days and challenging days. And on those toughest of days, where do you go for that inspiration? Or what do you do to stay inspired and to kind of get past some of those toughest times?
Boy, yeah, I guarantee you have many tough days. Um, One thing that works for me is I tend not to look externally for inspiration, although it does come. It does come. I do my best to focus on the beauty of, I guess you can say, the beauty of commitment. So if that's a lot of my life is playing the flute, right? Doesn't mean that I always want to play the flute. You know, I know when to take a break, when to sit on the couch, when to just go out, when to do something different. But I also know when it's time to get off the couch, when it's time to go into the practice room, put the instrument together. If I don't feel like playing an hour, if I don't feel like playing 30 minutes, I'll play 15 minutes. The next day, I'll play a little bit more. If I do that for 5 days, I'll sound better than I did that first day. If I sound better, that'll make me feel good. That's inspiration. And it begins for me with understanding the beauty of being committed to what I know deep down, even on my bad days, what I love.
Demarre McGill, you truly are one of the arts engines who is powering human creativity in our field. Thank you so much for joining us on the show.
Well, it's a real pleasure. Thanks, Aaron.